How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Cinemaholic Productions. My name is Spencer Henderson, and I am a cinemaholic.
I'm Ryan Gordon, and I'm a cinemaholic.
Stephen Parry. I'm an aspiring cinemaholic still.
You can just say you're a cinemaholic. You've been here 2 weeks in a row, Stephen.
I've just been promoted.
Stephen's been promoted to cinemaholic. You heard it here first. How's it going, everybody? Glad to see you. We have a packed show today. We're going to be talking about Assassin's Creed Passengers. We're going to be talking about Fences, and we're going to be talking about La La Land. So we're going to start off with our watch lists as usual. Just a quick reminder, if anybody wants to skip ahead to any part in the episode, we got the timestamps down in the description below. And if you're watching this live, thanks for watching, guys. We're glad to have you on board. And that being said, I think we don't have any announcements. So, Stephen, let's go ahead and get right into your watch list.
This is really hard, guys. But Steven came over to my house so that we could film this episode together, and it's really hard to keep us both in one shot. But his first watch list is The Grinch.
Okay, so I watched Holiday Inn, I watched White Christmas, and The Grinch was part of my never before seen Christmas watch list. And this was more fun than I expected it to be. If you're going to watch a Grinch, definitely go watch the cartoon from the 60s or 70s or whatever that was, because that's by far the best. The highlights are the parts that they borrowed from the cartoon, and Jim Carrey, you can tell he ad-libbed a lot of it, and I think those are some of the most fun parts. So I gave that a...
I don't remember.
Down 6.5 out of 10. So this isn't it's fun seeing Ron Howard kind of branch out, but this isn't up there with Beautiful Mind. And next we have
The Polar Express.
And this one was a lot better than I expected it to be as well. I never expected to get any more out of it than I got from the picture book we would read like 3 times a year in elementary school. Just because from what I've seen, it seemed like a very faithful adaptation. But Zemeckis managed to really stretch out this tone and have some really fun.
This was Zemeckis?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know.
He had a lot of fun with it. The CGI was better than I expected for how old it is. And there was this really annoying kid that I swear his voice is Dexter's Lab's nemesis, and he was definitely a highlight of it. So this one I would definitely suggest checking out, and I gave that a 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10.
Ryan or Spencer, any wise words about either of these movies?
We talked about Spencer said earlier that if you want to skip forward and stuff, it's in the description as well. We've got links to our other segments. We did a Christmas special, and I gave my thoughts on The Grinch in that episode. Like him, exactly the same. I liked the original. This one was fun. I like The Polar Express.
Yeah, so thoughts on The Grinch, as Ryan said in the Christmas video. Polar Express is fine. I like the nerdy kid as well. I'd recommend it. Pretty good. Yep. Zemeckis. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. What's on your watch list, Spencer?
So I'm going to start off this week by talking about a little horror movie I watched called The Eyes of My Mother. Have you guys heard of this movie?
Looks freaky.
I think I've seen the poster before. It's Sundance.
Yeah, I went to Sundance, and this movie is freaky as hell. It disturbed me on basically every level. I'd say it's probably the most unnerved I've been in a movie since I watched The Babadook, but I like this one significantly less. It's not a movie I enjoyed, but it's a movie that's really well made and I admired more than I enjoyed. So overall, I'd say I'd probably give this one a 7 out of 10. As I said, really well made, really well acted, does what it means to do, which is to disturb you to death. And basically all I got to say, I'd recommend it if you're a horror movie fan. If you're not, steer clear. So the next movie on my watch list is going to be Goat. Goat, I believe, was also a Sundance movie, I'm pretty sure. But this movie is a story about kind of like fraternity hazing and kind of like the psychological effects it has on these young men who decide to become these pledges. And I know a couple people who are in fraternities, and as far as I know, this is pretty accurate, which is really scary.
That's
watching this movie and kind of, yeah, knowing what happens. This movie's hard to watch, but it is really well done. I really actually wound up kind of digging Goat a lot. Ryan, have you seen this one?
I did. I saw it at Sundance, and the director was there and did a Q&A after. It was pretty cool.
Wow. Steven, do you see this?
I haven't had a chance yet.
Okay. Well, I would recommend it. I'd say that Goat is a solid 8 out of 10. As I said, just really wound up digging it a lot. There are a couple moments in the movie where I was like, okay, let's get a move on from this scene. There's like kind of a cameo by an actor, big actor, that I thought it kind of showed the long-term effects that this hazing had on them, I think is what they were going for, but I wasn't sure.
Too.
Yeah, oh, is it? Yeah, I guess I'll say it. James Franco gives a quick part in the movie, and it was pretty cool to see him. But yeah, I'd recommend go check it out if you can. And the last movie we're going to be talking about on my watch list is called Train to Busan. This is a South Korean film, and it's a zombie flick. And this movie is awesome. It is so good. It is kind of like the movie I wished World War Z would have been. I was not a fan at all of that World War Z movie. And this one had a lot of the big hordes of zombies that were trying to attack people. There were some great moments of tension. The emotional stakes in the movie were really, really strong. Just overall, it's what I want American zombie movies to be, and they're just not. So it's kind of sad, but I really, really dug this. It's probably the best zombie movie I've seen in a while. Have either of you heard of this?
I've heard of it just on an indie top 20 list. I heard it was really good. I have a long list to catch up on, so I haven't caught it yet.
Steven?
I haven't heard of it. Is it more realistic? Do they try and take a realistic approach, or is it more fun? And
yeah, it's really more of like a subdued kind of zombie movie. It's really not too graphic or anything. They're like, most of the violence is implied in the movie, which I really dug personally. I like kind of making things up in my imagination. But they have some really cool kind of like concepts with the zombies that they introduce as the movie goes on. And you kind of learn things with the characters, which I really, really dug. Overall, I'm going to give Train to Busan an 8.2 out of 10. I would recommend it. So that's the end of my watch list. So Ryan, what have you been watching this week?
Righty, this is a long one, so I'm going to try and cruise through it pretty dang fast. First of all, on Christmas, I watched Beauty and the Beast with my family. There goes Steven. Bye. It was just fun movie to watch on Christmas. I really enjoy this. I bought the new version that Disney re-released with some of the new special features, which were way fun, really insightful. This is such a classic, brilliant movie. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Always a joy to watch. I've started a new tradition on Christmas. I've started watching The Hateful Eight, the most random tradition ever, but I watched it last year, and then I was texting Jace Hughes on Christmas, and he said something that reminded me of this film. And so
did it rhyme with warm black dingus?
No, it was about Mexicans. And so I thought of the No Dogs, No Mexicans sign. So I actually really, really love this movie. The pacing is very long, but works so well. I mean, he's great at all those movies. So I'm gonna give it an 8.25. I also today, while you guys were watching Fences, watched Taxi Driver, which I know you both are going to have some comments on. So I'll just say I loved this movie. I had heard good things, but it wasn't until the last week that I heard really good things about this movie. I think I had just heard it in passing before, and it was on my list. You know, Robert De Niro, at his finest, and it was one that I needed to watch, and then Stephen gave me the Blu-ray, so I watched it today. Blew me away, absolutely blew me away. I'll score it 10 out of 10, which isn't going to be the first one on today's show. Just a spoiler alert. Assassin's Creed. So Stephen and Spencer first. What you said, this is your top 5?
Yeah, this movie's in my top 5 of all time. I think it's Scorsese's masterpiece. Haven't seen Silence yet, but yeah, I think that Taxi Driver is basically flawless. It's a perfect movie. Robert De Niro is excellent. We'll have to talk more in depth about it sometime. That's all I'm going to say. So
maybe we'll do a top 10 all time, and we'll go in depth. What are your thoughts on it?
So I just watched this like a month ago, and I was blown away, and I was wondering why I never watched it earlier. Definitely top 10 best movies I've ever seen. And yeah, I agree. It's totally flawless. It's very insightful, and it's amazing how you can feel for him, and even throughout his journey when he does like weird stuff.
Horrendous stuff.
You like the guy.
Okay, yeah, like him.
All right, next on my watch list was Sing. I was able to catch this at the theater. Kind of a charming movie. If you liked Trolls, I think you'll like this one. Shout outs to all pop music of the last couple years. It's got an awesome cast, actually. I didn't recognize a lot of them, which is saying something. Some of the voice actors, you've got Matthew McConaughey, Reese Witherspoon, Seth MacFarlane, John C. Reilly, Scarlett Johansson. Okay movie. I think families will really, really like it. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. It's fresh. I suggest going to catch it if you don't have anything to do. It's a short one, which I enjoyed. I saw a lot of long movies this week, and this one was nice and well paced, so I'll give it that. Then Spencer gave me Everybody Wants Some for Christmas, and I loved this. He texted me a couple weeks ago, a screenshot that he had gone and seen this 2 nights in a row, which he never does. Obviously, it's going to be on the top 10 of the year list. I really liked it. I think I was expecting a little bit more. I was expecting the story to go further, but it ends, and I wasn't expecting that, and I actually really enjoyed it. Richard Linklater, he's brilliant. Dazed and Confused is awesome, and this is a great follow-up that isn't a follow-up, if that makes any sense. It would make sense if you watch the movie. And that's the end of my watch list. So do either of you guys have any thoughts on anything we didn't talk about?
No, not really. I was to say, what would you score Everybody Wants Some, just out of curiosity?
I forgot. 8.5. Really fantastic movie. Really good. Yeah, that's it. Let's end this segment. That's the end of our watch list segment. We are going to get into Now Showing. We're going to be talking about 4 specific movies that hit theaters this week. First off will be Assassin's Creed, and then Passengers, followed up by Fences and La La Land. So Spencer's going to introduce the first 2, Assassin's Creed.
Okay, guys, so we're going to start off by talking about Assassin's Creed, which is the latest film by Justin Kurzel, who did Macbeth last year, and he's reteaming with Michael Fassbender and Marion Cotillard to tell the story of Cal Lynch, who explores the memories of his ancestor Aguilar and gains the skills of a master assassin. He discovers he is a descendant of the secret assassin society. So let's start off. Stephen, what did you think of Assassin's Creed?
So the way I watched, I gotta admit, I might be an awful person, but the way I watched Passengers and Assassin's Creed was catching 30 minutes at a time on break at Cinemark. And so I kind of saw it out of order. And I think at first I caught the coolest half that had the coolest action and some okay dialogue and stuff. So I didn't fully understand why people were hating on it so much. Today I caught the last half an hour. I was so underwhelmed. The climax, I'm like, oh, this is building up to the climax. There wasn't really a climax. And then it had at the very end, spoiler, but don't worry. You won't care. The end ends with him standing on a bridge or something with two other assassins, and it reminded me of like the early 2000s Punisher, where he has like this monologue where he's like, I don't even remember, but it just seemed like so cliche. And there were good elements of this. Their depiction of the Spanish Inquisition, I think, heavily took from Aronofsky's The Fountain, which is one of my most favorite movies ever. And so I thought that was cool. Some of the action was cool. Fassbender, you could tell that he was at least somewhat invested in this. I've never seen him not invested in a movie. That's what I got.
Do you want me to go, or do you have anything to add, Spencer?
I can talk about this real quick. I hate this movie. I hated it. It wasn't good. It's awful. In fact, it's not even worth talking about, really. So let's start off by just saying Macbeth was fine. I thought it was a very beautiful movie. It was well shot. It was well acted. I just didn't really take anything away. It felt a little bit hollow to me. But compared to this movie, Macbeth is a flat-out masterpiece. So the performances in this movie aren't too great. I mean, Michael Fassbender's fine. He does what he can, I guess, with what he gets. Same with Marion Cotillard. I actually thought that the ending kind of started to show some interesting stuff between her and Jeremy Irons, especially because of like their relationship in the film. He's her father. But then she just takes this crazy 90-degree turn out of absolutely nowhere that made no sense to me whatsoever. The action felt super choppy in this because we're cutting from him like fighting in the ancient times as an assassin, and then it cuts to like the current time where he's plugged into this thing, and it looks so stupid every single time. He's just like punching air, and it's not even really air, I guess. There's like kind of like silhouetted figures that you see him punching, but they do it like every 15 seconds. And it's like, guys, just let us focus on the like action in the assassin's time for just a little bit. Also, they don't ever explain like the rules of this world that he's in. I didn't even understand, like, was he just operating at the beginning through the memories of his ancestors? Because that's what I got. And then at the end, he kind of went into full control. But in the games, which I played some of the games, you like have to learn like how to fight, and like, you know, you have to learn how to use this type of technology. And in this movie, he goes into it and he's already like awesome. So there was no tension whatsoever for me. I was bored out of my mind. I did not like this movie at all. So Ryan, you can go ahead and get into what you thought.
I didn't like it. I did immediate reaction on Periscope right after, and I basically said what you said. It felt very choppy. He summed it up with the 5 words a guy hates to hear. There wasn't really a climax. This movie, I don't get it. I'm so sorry. I saw it with my brother who really likes these games, and I think he really kind of was okay with the movie, but I really didn't understand it at all. I didn't understand what this apple thing was, what the consequences were of the apple, and if they got it.
They didn't show the consequences.
See, I got that. Yeah. It's that they take away all the free will in the world, so they could control literally the human race as a whole. They could control everybody in humanity.
So does Marion Cotillard's character want that or not want that?
So the reason why she wants it is because she's a scientist and wants to be able to eliminate violence and aggression from culture. So yeah,
whatever. Stupid movie.
Well, like the MacGuffins is that what we call it, MacGuffin?
Yeah.
In Indiana Jones, they always show how they operate and how they affect.
Yeah, we needed like a 5-second scene even.
It was just like glowy.
So stupid.
It wasn't.
I do you have anything else to add?
They didn't utilize Jeremy Irons at
They
all.
didn't utilize anyone. 2 out of 10.
I'm also 2 out of 10.
Steven's higher than us.
Shoot. I am where'd it go?
Clicked it.
I clicked it.
There we go. You're 5.
5 out of 10. Maybe I need to work on my scoring and be harsher, but there are a few movies I'd score a 2 out of 10. I can't even think of one off the top of my head. So I need to
I mean, if that's your scoring system.
I just have one quick question for you. So we're to believe that you like this less than Collateral Beauty.
Yes. Yes.
What? Okay, fine. Let's move on. I can't take that.
Hey, Collateral Beauty, it mostly followed the rules that it created, and it made sense mostly, and there was an emotion.
Oh no, it did not. Okay. We'll leave Collateral Beauty.
I give freaking Collateral Beauty a 5.5. That's not a nice score, but I'd say it's a better movie than Assassin's Creed.
Okay, let's
Collateral Beauty.
Let's move on to Passengers. On a somewhat brighter note, and I say somewhat, sorry, let me pull this up on IMDb real quick. But Passengers stars Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence, 2 very charismatic, talented individuals, and it tells the story of a spacecraft traveling to a distant colony planet and transporting thousands of people has a malfunction in its sleep chambers. As a result, two passengers are awakened 90 years early. So, Stephen, what did you think of Passengers?
Okay, this is the first time I'm seeing this poster, and this is what I immediately thought of. check out Chris Pratt's Zoolander look. I guess that earned at least an extra half a point for me right there. I really didn't like this movie, even less than Assassin's Creed. I mean, it made sense, but it was too accessible. I mean, to the point of being insulting. That they didn't even have an attempt at a twist, in my opinion, and it seemed like Jennifer Lawrence was half acting for most of it and just kind of going to her stock expressions and stuff like that. If you want a movie somewhat similar to this that's actually really good and cool, go watch Moon with Sam Rockwell. Yeah, working at the theater, everyone comes out and they're like, that wasn't very good. And I wish I could shout that from the rooftops. And I guess I am now, but it's just not good.
Go for it, Spencer. I don't know what to say.
Okay, so this movie starts off really interesting. I didn't see anything about this movie before. I knew it was about somebody waking up from some sleep chamber. That's basically all I knew. So we have a pretty interesting premise here. And for a long time, I was like, wow, this is a pretty gutsy premise for a blockbuster. And then they totally forget what they were doing the entire time, because it sets up a really interesting moral dilemma with the main character. I don't know how much I can spoil with this movie, but basically
it's all in the trailer. You can talk about it.
Let's spoil it so no one will go see it.
Okay, so basically Chris Pratt's character is awoken. Not both of them are awoken. The plot summary lies because he's the only person woken up, okay? I guess as a result, she's woken up as well because he's woken up and that results in her being woken up. But the reason why it results is because Chris Pratt, his character makes the conscious choice in this movie to destroy another human being's lives, dreams, and everything, basically, to keep her basically a prisoner on this spaceship, to try to force her to fall in love with him so he doesn't have to live out the rest of his life alone. Okay? And that's a pretty interesting concept. However, in the third act of this movie, they totally drop it and make it some stupid, like,
Twilight.
blockbuster movie. No, I didn't see it as Twilight. I saw it as, they felt they couldn't just give us a movie that was thought-provoking, because I thought it was. I thought the first act of this movie was awesome. I was really into it. And I was like, really? Ryan didn't like this? And then I understood why as the movie progressed. I agree. Jennifer Lawrence's character is so underwritten. She's basically just a tool in this movie. And you want to talk about who's a tool in this movie? Is Lawrence Fishburne, whose sole purpose was to deliver exposition and then die. Literally, give them a tool and then die. That's his whole purpose, was just to give them.
Black guy in there too.
They got what?
They got their black guy in there too.
Yeah, and they kill him first. So he gives them the bracelet that can get them into the medical bay, and I guess that was his sole purpose, was to tell them, hey, there's something wrong with the ship, and then to cough, because as we said in the review for Collateral Beauty, anybody who coughs at any point in a movie is going to freaking die at some point in that movie. So this movie is a mess. I wasn't a fan of it at all. I think that Chris Pratt gave a pretty solid performance in the first act, and the music was pretty, and the production design. I like the music.
The music was pretty.
Yeah, I thought so. I liked it, but and then I thought the production design was really well done. But that's the only positive things I have to say about this. I was really, really massively disappointed, especially because I'm a fan of Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence, and they let me down.
Big time. I will start by saying I did not like the music at all. Especially like you have that scene where they're on their date and they're going out into the outer space or whatever. Do you trust me? And then it's like cue the music from musicbed.com. Like, it's the most generic. It was like it was all royalty free music.
The end scene too.
And the end scene too. I was not feeling it.
Speaking of the end scene, real quick, let me cut you off because I don't want to forget this. What did you guys think of Andy Garcia's performance?
Andy Garcia.
Who's he?
Oh, okay, never mind. Move on.
Wait, what?
He's the captain. He walks out for like He walks out of an elevator and then it's done. He's not. He doesn't even have a line. He's in the movie for one shot. What do they need him for in that? Like, this is more embarrassing than Max Steel was for him.
He's in Ghostbusters too. At least he got one good movie in there this year.
Man, I'm out.
Good movie? Good. Did you just call Ghostbusters a good movie?
I'm kidding. Sarcastic. I hate that movie. I don't hate it. I just don't like it.
Okay. I'll sum it up. I liked the aesthetic, like you said, kind of the production value. I really dug the lighting. How kind of new age and kind of, I don't know. I liked that, and that's what I got out of the first trailer. We fell into the same exact thing that we fell into with Allied. The trailer ruins everything. And the trailer starts with her already awake. So you go into this movie thinking it's going to be everything second act and on. So then you get this first act of Chris Pratt actually doing something good, and you're kind of just sitting there like, oh, what's the point of this? Because the trailer showed me everything in the second act when she was already awake. They need to learn how to market this movie better, and that's what the summary was as well. They skipped the first act, which was actually the good part, and the whole moral dilemma was the thing they should have capitalized. Like we were talking about, he said Moon is the same kind of premise-ish, but it actually focuses on the ethics behind it all. So go see that one. Don't go see Passengers. There's a reason that it bombed at the box office this week. 4 out of 10. What'd you give it?
This is weird because I also gave it a 4 out of 10. And one more thing I wanted to say about this movie real quick is you kind of brought up the second act, and I think that the second act of the movie, there's hardly a second act. We never see this relationship developed. We never are given any reason to care about this relationship other than that Chris Pratt is lonely. And that's literally it. And I don't know, the first act, like you said, just the strongest part in the movie. The second act is way too short, and they should have depended more on the actors. the third act is a mess. It's not even worth talking about. So, Stephen, what would you give Passengers?
I'm going to interrupt really quick and just say another thing that was jarring to me was when Jennifer Lawrence beats the snot out of Chris Pratt.
That was my favorite scene in the entire movie.
I liked it, but it was so jarring compared to the rest of the movie.
The tone. Yeah.
It took me out of everything completely. I was like, what the freak is going on right now? So, I mean, there's that.
I gave it a 5. Enough said.
Awesome.
All right, moving on.
Steven's going to introduce us to Fences.
All right, where's the Fences button?
Got it right here. You'll just go down one. Yep, right there. Down one more. It's hiding from you. Fences.
Okay.
Do you want to read this?
Yes, I do.
Oh, look, I closed it. Fences was originally a play written by Augusta someone.
It's August Wilson.
August Wilson. Here we go.
An African-American father struggles with race relations in the United States while trying to raise his family in the 1950s and coming to terms with the events of his life. So this movie is really a character piece. It focuses primarily on Denzel Washington's character, Troy something rather. But you also, let's see, there's, I think, 4 or 5 other prominent characters, and you really get to know each of them and what makes them tick. And I think it worked. I think the acting was great. I don't really have any complaints about the acting. The first scene or two, I think, dragged on a little bit and kind of took me out of it. If you do go see this movie, just remember it is a play. It's basically like going to watch a play, except you have
Don't get an intermission.
Yeah, no intermission. And also you get a few close-ups on them. And I think for the most part, Denzel Washington as a director really understood how to use the camera to portray these characters.
Look at his face. What are you thinking right now? You look like you're thinking about something special.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Special thoughts. We're special.
Okay, so you want me to start on my thoughts?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Well, I really like this movie. I didn't quite love it, and I think that is because of the pacing. You kind of brought up that a couple of the scenes went on a little bit too long. This is a long movie. It's actually not too long though. It's like a little bit over 2 hours, but it feels a lot longer than that. So I think that shows that they could have probably trimmed a little bit down. As Stephen said, the acting in this movie is phenomenal from like everybody, but the person who was the standout for me was Viola Davis. Viola Davis is so good in this movie. Like there is one scene in particular where after it was done playing, I was like, oh, she's probably going to win the Oscar for this one. Just because I felt
about when
every
she not on her face.
Yeah.
That's in the trailer, and that's powerful.
Yeah, I felt everything that her character felt in that scene. And I think that also really comes to show how strong Denzel Washington's performance is as well, because he has a lot of effect on that scene, and he's a real big presence in this movie. I thought every single moment he's on screen and he's delivering some crazy monologue about hating his son or hating his life or hating white people or whatever. He hates a lot of stuff in this movie. And I really actually wound up digging him. Denzel's one of my favorite actors of all time, and he really nailed this role. I think they're both going to get nominated for Oscars. The movie will probably be nominated for Best Picture. But I think that actually, this might be a controversial statement. I think Nate Parker's performance was still probably better in Birth of a Nation. So, Ryan, what did you think of Fences?
I'm glad you brought that up because I hadn't thought about that before. I really dug his performance in this, and it was phenomenal. but that's because I saw it recently, and I haven't seen Birth of a Nation for a while, and so I would like to watch them really close to each other so I could analyze performances, because they were both phenomenal. I think this was a really good piece to direct, maybe to just kind of get a grip on how things go and how to direct and stuff. I think this would be a fantastic first film to do, and you could. Everything that both of you guys said, you could tell that it was a play. There was tons of dialogue. I bet this script was 275, 250 pages. There's a lot of dialogue. Like you said, kind of any and every topic turns into a monologue for Denzel's character, which had its pros and its cons. I dug. I wish I could have seen this as a staged production, and I kind of wish I had that break of an intermission to kind of collect my thoughts and kind of breathe and then get into a second act. It felt very, very one act kind of thing. I mean, there were character arcs and such, but looking at it now,
It's hard to pick.
it's hard to tell where the acts split up. But I really appreciated watching it on film because, like he said, you do get those close-ups, you get those money shots. Though I don't think there was anything necessarily super cinematic about it. It was very, very standard in the, hey, we're going to do a close-up, we're going to do a medium, we're going to get our coverage. But it worked for what this was. That's kind of all my thoughts. I really liked it. I walked away liking it. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. What about you, Spence?
So actually, I want to add just one more thing before I bring this back up. A movie that I thought of actually as I walked out, funny enough, was Manchester by the Sea. And I thought of that because Manchester by the Sea is another movie with like great performances across the board. And this movie, the acting in it is phenomenal in Fences. So, but I liked Manchester by the Sea more. And I think it's because the direction is better. I think Kenneth Lonergan had a like better understanding of how to tell his story, kind of a little bit more so than Denzel did. And I think that Denzel does a fine job directing this, but I just don't think that like I wasn't riveted from beginning to end the way that I was when I watched Manchester by the Sea, which the only reason why I'm comparing those two, as I said, is they're both dramas. They're both very dialogue heavy, and they both feature really, really powerful acting and powerful scenes within the movie. So that being said, I'm going to give Fences a 7.5 out of 10. Maybe upon reflection, I'll start to like it a little bit more. I just barely saw this movie, so I'm still kind of trying to like think it over like a little bit. But overall, I did like it a lot and would highly recommend anybody who's interested in it should go see it. And just for Viola Davis's performance alone. So, Stephen, what would you give Fences?
So I also gave it an 8 out of 10. As to getting an Oscar nom for Best Picture, I'm not sure if it will, because like what Ryan touched on, it didn't hardly ever felt cinematic. And I don't know if that's one of their credentials, but in my opinion, that is something that I would look for if I was an Oscar judge.
I think it's a lock for Best Picture in my opinion. But
time will tell, and it's very possible that I'll be wrong. But if you do like slow burners and if you like character pieces, definitely check it out. It's very relatable too. I think a lot of us have relationships in our lives that we can relate to, and it's extra impactful just because we all know Troy, whatever his name is, last name.
Mick. Which it's actually a very interesting thing to say, because I said the same thing. Was it's a slow burner, but it's not slow. But it's weird because it's not slow, because right off the bat you get like this intense stuff, but at the same time it does take its time. It's very slow paced to get you to your end goal. So
yeah, and the drama does keep building dimensions of these characters as the movie continues to go. At the beginning, you view Denzel's character you do at the end of the film. So
awesome. Okay, we are going to get into La La Land now. This is what I've been waiting for. There are several synopses online. I'm going to read the one that I like the most, which is simply a jazz pianist falls for an aspiring actress in Los Angeles. I think that's all you need to know going into this movie. Don't go read any of the other synopsis. The trailers are really good for this. Bravo to Summit and Lionsgate for making this movie, first of all, and for cutting and producing trailers that they did that give you a glimpse and a flavor of what this is without giving you major plot or spoilers. There are some quick shots in there that are second and third act, but none of them are in context, and you won't regret watching the trailers for this. I loved this. I'm just gonna jump out of the gate and say I am in love with this film. The first showing in Utah for this was a week ago Thursday. So it's been 9 days or something like that. I've seen this movie 6 times in the theater. This movie is ridiculous good. And I'm going to end my thoughts there. Just this movie is brilliant. And I don't know any category in the Oscars that this could not be nominated for. That's how I'll wrap up this. I want to go through, do your thoughts, his thoughts, then scores, and then let's open the gates for spoilers on this if you guys are game.
okay, so yeah, this movie's freaking phenomenal. Like, it is so good. I didn't know anything about this movie going in, like I do most movies. I knew it was from the guy who did Whiplash, so I was pumped for that. And I knew it was a musical, and I'd seen the poster, and the poster's super pretty, as you guys can see right next to me. I love the poster for this movie. It's probably my favorite poster of the year, possibly. And the movie is definitely up there with my favorites of the year. From the opening scene, this movie put a stupid smile on my face that just stayed the entire movie. Everything about this movie is perfect. Like, I really tried. I sat there and I was like, oh, I'm gonna find something to to try to make me like this movie less. And by the end of the movie, I just totally given up, because you completely just fall in love with this movie. And I don't know, everything about it. The beginning, everything that happens in between, and the ending. The ending of this movie is the best ending I've seen in a movie this year. It is so freaking phenomenal. So old-fashioned. Anybody who says they don't make movies like they used to anymore, then just be like, buy a ticket to La La Land and shut up and stop complaining. Because La La Land literally reinvents the cinematic wheel, guys. It is that good. It is so great. Stephen, what did you think of La La Land?
So I loved it as well, and it's kind of rare for me to say that I love a movie. I'm not crazy harsh on things like Passengers or Collateral Beauty, but I feel like it's even harder. As hard as it is to disgust me, it's even harder to thoroughly impress me. And I was just blown away. I've recently watched Singing in the Rain for the first time, and it felt so true to that, and it didn't detract at all from cinematic or musical tradition. And just Ryan Gosling, Emma Stone is amazing, but Ryan Gosling as well. He is a leading man. He has the charm, the charisma, and just the drive that made Cary Grant and Jimmy Stewart and all those guys amazing. And I don't know. And the way it ended, like you said, Spence, was perfect. I couldn't have wished for a better ending.
It was genius as well.
Yeah, it was a lot of times it's okay, how are they going to wrap this up that in a way that's going to impress me after they had such an impressive movie? And the ending, in my opinion, ended up being the best part, which blew me away. Same with Whiplash. I mean, Damien Chazelle has a knack for endings, which is really hard to nail, in my opinion.
Okay, what are you going to score it?
So I'm going to score this a 10 out of 10. I think it's pretty obvious. I said this movie was perfect, and I meant it. This year has been a crazy year for me. I really don't try not to give out perfect scores unless movies deserve them, particularly these last couple months. There's been a couple movies, and I stand by all of my scores that I've rated perfect. And just for what this movie tries to do in the category of musicals, it's up there with the best musicals I've ever seen in my life. I'm not somebody who's head over heels for musicals, but boy, oh boy, I loved La La Land. It like literally made me just be like, I believe in magic, people. I straight up believe in magic right now. I don't care. I'm like the new Jaden Smith.
Yeah.
Remember that Jaden Smith thing? Yeah.
You're bordering Jaden Smith territory right there.
There's no words for me to describe how much I am in love with this movie. I've talked to many people. I went and saw it before a lot of people that I know, because I drove all the way up to Salt Lake to see it. And I came back smiling. I have not stopped smiling since. And there was no way for me to convey to anyone how charming this movie is. And so that's all I could say. And then to take people to this movie and to see them react and love it as much as I've loved it is so rewarding. I had somebody turn to me the other day in our movie, and he's like, why did you not tell me how good this movie is? And I said, I couldn't. There's nothing to describe how good this movie is. It's an experience. You have to go and you have to witness this and feel these emotions. I wanted to read something really quick that Damien Chazelle said regarding the ending that I love. This says, for as much as La La Land is a breathless romance, it is also a tale of what we give up to pursue our own private dreams. Quote, I am very moved by the idea that you can meet someone in your life who transforms you and sets you onto a path that is going to finally enable you to be the person you always dreamed of being. But ultimately, you need to go on that path alone, says Chazelle. You can have a union that winds up dictating the rest of your life, but doesn't last the rest of your life. I find that incredibly beautiful and heartbreaking and wonderful. It's a soul. I wanted this movie to be about that. I love that quote. I gave it a 10. You gave it a 10. You gave it a 10.
Yep. By the way, this is on top of Ryan's toilet.
It is.
This is his toilet reading material.
And I read it over and over again. As well as the soundtrack. The soundtrack is so beautiful. I haven't listened to anything else since I saw this movie. Do you guys have any specific spoilers you want to get into? Highlights?
Let's talk about that ending.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I thought was so genius about, spoiler alert, by the way, if you're still watching, stop watching. Don't listen to what we have to say about the spoilers with La La Land, because this is such a great experience. Seriously, please stop. Don't watch this. Okay. But if you have watched it, then definitely listen to everything we're about to say, because we're about to talk about this movie a ton, and you're going to love what we say. So anyways, the way that, he's playing the beginning of that song, and then we go back to see him play that song from like the second time that she sees him, was so genius. And as soon as that happened, it really, for a musical, for like music to be the thing that like wraps the ending up into a nice little bow, is the most genius thing. And the way that scene plays out and everything, I was literally like in tears by the end of the scene, but like happy tears. And that's weird. It's funny because the ending of the movie is so bittersweet. Like that final look that they give each other, first of all, perfect. It is so perfect. That moment in the movies is just like, that's probably my favorite thing I've seen in a movie this year. I straight up, Ryan told me before, that he like straight up clapped at parts in the movie. Yeah, I was the only person in the theater, but I was like sitting there just like, yeah, like it was so amazing.
You were alone at La La Land?
Yeah, dude.
Oh,
I went Christmas Eve by myself. So it was, I was completely alone in the theater, but I didn't even care. I was sitting there just like totally enraptured by what was happening.
I agree. The thing that this movie does, there's a few lines in the movie that I think kind of give you a full view of what the movie is. And the movie is very well, what's his name? The jazz player, the
George
Common.
Is it? Yeah, it's John Legend.
He has a really good line that kind of sums it up. He's talking about you're a traditionalist. You want to save jazz. That's what you want to do. How are you going to save it if you're living in the past? And I think this captures that so well of saving film, but not being a traditionalist. It is able to take classic film and musicals and intertwine it and interconnect it so beautifully and methodically.
It felt so contemporary while not being contemporary at all, which is crazy. I don't even know how
I'm glad that you said that this like reinvented the film wheel, because the
film wheel,
like how film is made. This is changing the game, the way that this movie is done, which is so brilliant. And that end scene where it does go back, it does so well of showing you, here's the classic, here's J.K. Simmons snapping away, and then it slowly goes into a modern age, and then it goes into an abstract, and then right back to the classic, and it wraps it up with that music, and it's so beautiful. Do you have any additional thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the ending is something that's going to artistically resonate with people for decades and centuries, and that bittersweet ending like that, you know, that's part of what makes Casablanca great. I just watched the Third Man, and I liked the movie until I got to the end, and then I loved it. Just somewhat of a similar idea.
Even Taxi Driver.
Yeah, it's just the thing to do, and it always feels fresh if you do it right and you're in your own way, and that's what he did. He nailed it.
Which is interesting because we just talked about Assassin's Creed and Passengers, which the endings sucked.
There wasn't an ending. I mean, it ended. There wasn't an ending.
Exactly, and maybe that is why those movies sucked. I mean, this movie is phenomenal besides that, but that's one huge standout for it. Do you guys have any other scenes that
I loved the 80s cover band scene? That was so funny to me, and they really capitalized on Emma Stone's lip sync battles that she does with Jimmy Fallon, but it didn't feel out of place either. Yeah,
so good. My two favorite scenes are Lovely Night, the tap dancing number, when they first kind of admit feelings for each other and start falling in love. Beautiful.
It filmed on location, not a studio. I swore it was on a studio just because how gorgeous it was.
And how perfect it was. But we watched an interview, and that is 100% legit. All of that. My other favorite scene is the audition song. Holy crap. Emma Stone can sing. And it's one thing, the first time I saw it, I walked out. I'm so glad that they were able to produce this music in a way that suited the characters so well. I'm glad they didn't go for anything huge and grandeur, because I don't know if Ryan could necessarily hit a lot of that. But his music was so perfect for him. And that song, for Audition, was perfect for her, that it hit the points that she was really, really good at. But it also was very subdued, so personal, and so on point with what that character was going through and what it had to accomplish. I want to hear your thoughts on how well they were able to do the Birdman-esque oneers, the one shots for the musical numbers specifically. And I think that added to the classical feel to it. What are your thoughts on that, Spencer?
Yeah, this movie opens with an amazing tracking shot that just totally blew my mind. Like as soon as that happened, I was like, okay, I'm gonna love this movie. Like there's no need to even because yeah, Ryan kind of hyped this movie a ton for me, but nothing he could have said to me could have oversold this movie for me. Like either way, I would have walked in and loved it. And Ryan, you said something that I really loved. You brought up the line that John Legend says about the traditionalists, but you have to change and adapt, and kind of evolve. And I mean, being two people who, week to week get on here and try to convince people to go watch good movies, that really spoke to me. Kind of and you told me, I remember after you first saw it, that there were lots of things in this movie that spoke to you. But kind of being somebody, anybody out there who has any sort of dream whatsoever is going to connect to this movie and is going to completely and totally fall over it, head over heels in love with it, just like I did, just like Ryan did, just like Stephen did. This movie is phenomenal. Yeah, it should win Best Picture. Like it's just the best made movie.
I think it's got.
Yeah, I still think Manchester by the Sea is my favorite movie of the year, but I think this is probably the movie that should win, because on a technical level, there's just nothing else like it that I've seen this year. It's kind of like how I felt when I watched Mad Max Fury Road last year. After I saw that, I was just like, just give them the Oscar for Best Picture, even though this is a blockbuster, because everything that was made, there were so many layers to it. And this guy's 31 years old, this Damien Chazelle. He's 31 years old, and he directed this. Like, bravo. That's basically all I got.
One thing that I want to talk with you guys is, so not everyone likes this movie. And I kind of wonder if it's just because we do have a movie addiction and we kind of look for those wonders. We look for certain things in the acting, and look for flow, and look for all these things, and look for throwback. And I'm just wondering, I want to hear in the comments from people that maybe don't spend their time doing things other than watching movies, what you thought of it and why you liked it or why you didn't. Because I'm sure everyone's going to like this for different reasons, or not like it for different reasons.
I think the first words out of my mouth after the movie ended, as I wiped tears from my eyes, was, what type of a jackass would not like this movie? So if you didn't like this movie, I don't think you'll be watching this video. That's all I have to say. You're obviously not into movies.
That's so interesting, because I thought the same exact thing. Since then, I'm gonna sound like a jackass saying this, but I've gone and seen this with a lot of different people, and there are maybe two people that I've seen it with that I actually give their opinion credit. And I know that's a real douchey thing to say because film is so subjective, but this is an objective masterpiece. Like, this is brilliant. And there's maybe one or two people who I do respect their opinions a lot who haven't liked it. And I'm interested to have a discussion with them about that, because that is so mind-blowing, out of this world for me, because this is in my top 3 all-time favorite movies.
Oh, really? Wow. Yeah. That's
am
impressive.
in love with this movie.
Yeah, I agree with what you said. Objectively, at least on a technical level, you really can't say this is a bad movie. Otherwise, you're a liar. That's just plain and simple. You might not enjoy certain aspects,
or you don't connect with it for whatever reason. Which
how would you not connect with this?
We've talked to people and it's happened,
I agree with him. I want to hear in the comments what did it for you and what didn't do it for you.
And no shame if you didn't like it. We won't attack you. Except maybe
I didn't mean what I said there, people. But no, after I finished the movie, that really was what I thought. I was like, what type of a person, like what type of a Scrooge would not like this movie? Because it's so good. Like, it is so good. And it's so uplifting. It's beautiful. I was so inspired when I walked out of this movie. Like, the only movie that's like done this type of thing to me, like as the way I felt, how warm and bubbly I felt, was It's a Wonderful Life, which is like my all-time favorite movie. This movie made me feel like that same exact way, which there are movies that move me on a different level, but I walked out of this like inspired, like I'm gonna go move to California and start auditioning.
I love it. Let's end it there. Fantastic discussion. We had a super long episode. Thank you for watching, especially if you were able to stick through it all with us. Like we said, we will always have those hyperlinks in the description for if you haven't seen a movie, you can always jump back and forth and watch the reviews that you have seen, as well as we do have the links to our other specials, which I'm going to give a shout out to right now. In the near future, we will be doing 2 specific things that you should look forward to. Number 1, a best of 2016. Number 1.5, a worst of 2016. And number 2, we will be interviewing Eddie from Die Hard. Do you want to give us some more info on that, Spencer?
Yeah, guys. So actually, a supporting cast member of Die Hard, he played Eddie, who was one of the terrorists with Alan Rickman in Die Hard. Actually, the second to last terrorist, right before Alan Rickman. He's the second to last person to die. So super pumped. We're gonna be interviewing him, and we're both super excited. You should expect that at the beginning of next year, which is crazy to say. It's almost 2017, guys.
Seriously.
Thank goodness 2016 is almost over. But that being said, you can follow me on Twitter at SpinnyHand. Ryan, where can they find you? And Steven, where can they find more of your stuff?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Rye_Gordon, and you can find him.
Come visit me at Cinemark. Same as usual.
One day we'll convince him to get a Twitter. But he, follow him at Cinemark. It's always fun. Thank you again for watching. Next week, do we have one more week before the year's over?
The next week is the 1st. Next Sunday is the 1st.
Okay, so look out for our best of 2016 review episode, because we will be giving away another Blu-ray as well as some digital copies of movies. So it'll be a pretty big giveaway: a Blu-ray and 3 digital downloads of movies. So stay tuned for that. Do you have anything to close us off, Spencer?
I do not, guys. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, and comment. Tell us what you thought of these movies. Tell us how much you loved La La Land. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. Bye.